Hey everybody, welcome back to Malt Muser Whiskey Reviews. I am Eric, and today I have a Japanese blended whiskey for you, Hibiki Japanese Harmony. As always here on the channel, I'm going to give you a nose taste finish review of this whiskey. I'll tell you a bit about the value, give you my final thoughts and the final score, leave you with the malt musing. But first, before we kick off whiskey review number 98, do hit subscribe. I'm coming up on my 100th review, and I don't want you to miss any of the reviews that come out every single Friday, so take a moment and click subscribe. Okay, so Hibiki Japanese Harmony. Here's the box. Here's the bottle. So what's the deal with this whiskey? This is basically a blend of both grain and malt whiskey, owned by the Suntory Whiskey Company. You may know them as also being connected with Jim Beam. This whiskey in particular, 43% ABV. It is a blend of, as I mentioned, two malt whiskey distilleries, Yamazaki and Hakushi distilleries in Japan, and also the Chita distillery where they get the grain whiskey from. Here's what the box has to say about the Hibiki Japanese Harmony. Was created to be the paragon of Suntory blend. Hibiki literally means resonance in Japanese and reflects Suntory's corporate philosophy to live in harmony with nature. This whiskey celebrates Japanese nature and the subtleties found in the 24 seasons of the traditional calendar, reflected in the 24 facets of its bottle design. Before we go any further, this is an absolutely stunning bottle. As you can see, there are rivets all the way around it, 24 of them representing the Japanese seasons in the traditional calendar. So as for the juice itself, Japanese whiskeys, whether the blends tend to have a specific kind of aged oak in it called Mizunara. So Mizunara oak has got an interesting history. Back at like the end of World War II, Japan obviously was decimated, wasn't able to really import a lot of oak casks, so they began using a rarer native oak called Mizunara. In order for Mizunara to actually even be usable for whiskey, because it's such a soft wood, the tree itself has to be upwards of like 200 years old. So not an easy thing to get their hands on, obviously very expensive. But the flavors that it imparts on a whiskey are, according to wine enthusiasts, things like sandalwood, Japanese incense, coconut and spice. So we probably pick a few of those up in here. This whiskey itself aged in a bunch of different casks, including Japanese Mizunara, ex-sherry, and American oak. So a lot happening in this blend. Let's dive in and find out what it's all about. Some of this in the glass. As I mentioned, 43% ABV, unclear whether there's been any color added or chill filtration. This is the color you are looking at of Hibiki Japanese Harmony. All right. First, on the nose. Subtle, some intense actual spice behind these subtle fruit notes. Apple, almost like cinnamon, honey, warming and inviting. Maybe even a little bit more of a red fruit note, tart red fruit. Definitely just has a nice overcoat of kind of a warm spice note. Very inviting. Let's give it a taste. Cheers. It arrives pretty soft and delicate. Kicks up with some, starting off with some like sweet, again, orange, honey. Nice kind of velvety mouthfeel despite being kind of a light whiskey. As it develops, you start getting more spice. Oak spice, slight chocolate, slight cinnamon, some other spice that I can't quite put my finger on. Some floral notes too, which I didn't quite notice on the nose, but seem to be developing here. Lavender maybe? Citrus. So it goes into the finish. Medium on the finish, short to short medium. Again, getting a much more of a sharp citrus note. I want to say it's almost like white grapes, maybe even a little bit of a lemon, pepper. cinnamon nutmeg kind of spice note and a bit of kind of almost brown sugar or caramel. This is definitely kind of a delicate, lack of a better word, elegant whiskey. A lot of subtlety in it, a lot of nuances. It's one that I think as you sip on it, you start picking up on a few more of the kind of buried tasting notes that otherwise are a little dominated on the front by that spice and that honey and that kind of oaky caramel. Let's put a bit of water on this. About a teaspoon. So with the additional water, more citrus now. Lemon lime. There is now kind of a bit more of that fragrant floral note. Sweet. The honey's still there. And again, that kind of warm cinnamon baking spice kind of in the background. Not in the dark notes that you get off like that a bourbon, but much subtler, much sweeter, more refined almost. Okay. Yeah, definitely brightened up a bit with the additional water. The citrus notes coming through a bit more. I'll give it a taste now. Pepper note has died down. It's still creamy, kind of this blast of caramel, slight chocolate, vanilla. Those ex-bourbon, ex-American oak, ex-bourbon casks are definitely shining through now with the addition of water. Not getting much in the way of sherry fruit notes at all. As for that Mizunara note, the spice is there. It's very subtle. Not much in the way of sandalwood, maybe just a little bit. Apple, still there. As it goes into the finish, though, I think with the addition of water, this is still just much more dominated now by what I would consider kind of American oak or ex-bourbon notes, brown sugar, that nice kind of milk chocolate, almost malted milk ball to some degree, slight kind of orange. Finish is still around that medium range. Let's do one more taste. Good stuff. Once again, here is the bottle. If you're looking for get your hands on a bottle of Hibiki Japanese Harmony, it's going to cost you some money. This replaced the Hibiki 12 a couple years back. And as most Japanese whiskeys are, the prices are rising in the United States quite considerably. A bottle of this Hibiki Japanese Harmony is going to run you between $75 to $85, which is a pretty steep price for a non-age statement blended whiskey. Value-wise, I wouldn't say this is a great value. There are probably some other introductory Japanese whiskeys if you were really trying to get a sense of the style. And if you know of any, mention them in the comments. So, final thoughts. This is an enjoyable whiskey. I think, as again, other than the price, which is continuing to rise, I would say that this is a good introduction to Japanese whiskey. But with the cost, you might want to look for some alternatives. I think there as more and more Japanese whiskeys come on the market, you'll have the opportunity to kind of try some and get a sense of the style. This whiskey, I think, is just one that, despite being a pretty quality product, the price is just pretty prohibitive. I wouldn't go over $75 for something like this. So, but the juice itself, not bad. Comes in a really nice bottle. If you want to use something like this as a decanter, you'd have the opportunity. My final score on the Hibiki Japanese Harmony, I'm going to give it a fair 3 out of 5, which means I do recommend you try this whiskey at some point. And if you do find a bottle at a really good price, maybe sub $70, maybe it's worth a pickup, especially if you're looking to just kind of delve into Japanese whiskey. But do keep your eye out for other options as well. Okay, so that is my review of the Hibiki Japanese Harmony. And do hit subscribe if you've yet to, and we'll catch you next week Friday on Malt Muser Whiskey Reviews. Till then, cheers.